Hello and welcome to Grandma Magic Live, a special live stream version of our podcast from the Grandmother Collective. We are a nonprofit organization working toward a world where older women's wisdom, power, and leadership are recognized as essential forces for social change. Usually, Grandma Magic comes to you as a podcast, but today you're joining us in real time. Our format is simple. We'll have about 40 minutes of conversation, followed by questions from the chat. You may be watching on YouTube or LinkedIn, and we're so glad you're here. I'm your host, Lindsay Farrell, and I'm honored to welcome Donna Wald, a grandmother, advocate, and remarkable changemaker whose work on gun safety has inspired a national movement of older adults taking action to protect their families and communities. Donna is the co-founder of Grandparents Uniting for Gun Safety, a nationwide network helping grandparents and allies push for stronger laws and safer practices around firearm use and storage. She also serves as president of Grandmothers Against Gun Violence on Cape Cod, one of the most active local chapters in Massachusetts. After a successful career in marketing and communications, Donna turned her expertise towards public service, helping to build programs that combine education, advocacy, and community engagement. She often says that safety is the foundation of freedom, that we all deserve to live, work, worship, and play without fear. Her leadership reminds us that grandmothers grounded in love and moral clarity can shift culture and policy alike. Let's welcome Donald Wald to Grandma Magic Live. Hi, Donna.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great today.
Good. Well, thanks so much for joining us. One of the things I really like to understand right away is what are you working on? What are you doing right now? And what led you here? How do you explain how your experiences drew you into this work on safety and gun violence prevention?
Well, as you heard, I'm a co founder of Grandparents Uniting for Gun Safety and the current 7-year president of Grandmothers Against Gun Violence on Cape Cod. And if we talk about what led me here, is I grew up in a small New England town. And in that town, we all know each other, we all care for each other, and we all looked out for each other. And when things were bad, we were all there for each other. So, in a way, from day one, I had instilled in me that if you're a citizen of some place, that you have an inherent responsibility to contribute to where you live and to look out for other people. How I got involved with the state organization, Grandmothers Against Gun Violence, is I came to the Cape to retire. Well, that turned out not to happen, but anyway. So I was driving around one day and I saw all these women of older ages standing at this rotary where a ton of traffic goes by, and they all had these gun violence prevention signs. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. So I looked into it, and then I joined the group and I did some marketing for them for a while. And then their president wanted to resign, and she was faced with the usual, well, who's going to take this over? And she don't want to be the one to end the organization. So a bunch of us stepped up and put together this collaborative board and decided we were going to take it forward. And it was really interesting because then shortly thereafter, we got about 3 years into it, then we got COVID. And there was another decision. Are we going to just rest the organization for 2 years, or are we going forward? And we said, no, we're not resting anything, because gun violence isn't resting, and we're just going forward. And I really feel during that time we grew a lot because everyone was Zooming. We got a lot more exposure to people. So that's sort of how I got here. And I truly have to say that I am amazed at the stamina and the conviction of women, probably in my group anywhere from 50 upwards. I am totally amazed with all the other challenges you deal with being older.
Mm-hmm.
I am amazed at the level of commitment right now, especially that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. So what in particular about gun prevention, gun safety drove you? I mean, you could choose. Actually, there's like many grandma groups on Cape Cod doing other things. We know of one that like collects trash out of the bay, and but what is it particularly about this that is where you've landed? Because now you have actually two organizations.
Well, I think what it is, particularly, and you've heard this, this is one of the largest public health issues of our times.
Hmm.
It's also one of the more complicated issues of our times. And it really requires our attention because what's happening is, although some of the homicides are easing off a little bit, our youth
Hmm.
are more at risk than ever. It is our youth now where the suicide rate by gun is rising. It's our youth. We're giving away our future. Um, and everybody says, it's not that bad. But I'd like to share a few statistics with you guys.
Yeah.
Right now, there are 450 million guns in America. That is 1.2 guns for every person and child in the United States. We have over 25 states with either lax gun laws or non-existent gun laws. And right now we have a federal government who cares to do little to end gun violence and is rolling back measures that we passed in the last 4 years. We have also a gun manufacturing industry, which is unregulated mostly and really opportunistic. And we have over 45,000 gun deaths a year. In some states, more than half of those are gun suicides. So, like I said, we have a health epidemic that is really bad. And everything we work on in gun violence prevention is about safety ultimately. And how you define safety is really important because some people look at us and say, so what are you about? Are you training how to safely use a gun? Or are you whatever? When we talk about gun safety, there's really two sides to it. And safe storage of a firearm is one of our big categories because we could make an incredible difference in this country if we could get people to safely store their firearms. I am confident we could cut the gun deaths in this country in half if we could only get that done. And this is why. When you don't store a gun properly, you get unintentional shootings in your own home, which is horrendously sad. You get impulsive suicides because in a lot of cases, the ideation for a suicide sometimes happens within 5 to 10 minutes. So I don't need to tell you that if there's a gun available in 5 to 10 minutes, it's highly likely that suicide will result in death. It's 90% likely that if you try to commit a gun suicide, it will happen. And that will be the end. Whereas with other methods like drugs and stuff, you might stand a chance that someone finds you. You might. So that to us is huge.
There's more planning, preparation, things like that involved.
Yeah, it's like it's fast, it's quick, it's there. And so we always say that if you don't store a gun properly, that you can actually make a temporary crisis. You can turn it into a permanent situation, which is heartbreaking. The other thing we like to talk about, and this is much more complicated, is domestic abuse. If you have a firearm in the home and you already have that kind of an issue going on, that also is a really tragic event because women die all the time at the hands of their partner through gun violence. Gun thefts. If you leave your gun in your car or in the house unsecured, every year there are over 250,000 guns stolen from cars and houses. And I don't really need to tell you who's stealing those guns. And then they become very shortly, actually, sometimes up to 2 or 3 months, they get reported as crime guns. So that happens. And our the worst, one of the worst, although not the most frequent, is school shootings. In 78% of the school shootings, the firearm came from the victim's home or the home of a relative. So when we say gun safety, that is one part of gun safety. Safe storage, and a federal safe storage law could be really helpful here.
Sorry, Donna, just real quickly, what does that look like? Does that look like when you go to purchase a gun legally that you have to also simultaneously prove that you are storing them safely, or do you have to buy a lock, or what does it look like to even enforce ensuring that someone in their private home can?
A lot of states have safe storage laws, or what we call child access prevention laws. We have one here, and what it means is ours. I'll just use ours. Ours is a $1,000 fine if for some reason, let's say the police enter your home for some reason. If there is an unsecured firearm, you lose the ability to use your firearm for a year, as well as getting a $1,000 fine. There are other states with much, I wouldn't say stiffer, but different configurations of that law. Where I am going with this is the other part of our safety is that we can't just let the states do all the work. Because when you have that many states unregulated, all this spills over into the regulated states with firearm trafficking and all of it. So nationally, with Grandparents Uniting for Gun Safety, we also more or less lobby and call legislators on these 5 bills, number 3 being a federal safe storage law, a federal assault weapons ban, which we know assault weapons are just horrendous and they're used for awful things, a universal background check bill. And that means wherever you would buy a gun, internet, gun show, wherever, you would have to have a background check. Red flag laws, which are laws which 22 states have now, that gives you the right in a civil procedure with a judge to remove a gun from anyone who is a danger to themselves or others. And those laws are really not enforced very well right now in a lot of states, but in the states that have, they're great. And we just expanded ours to include a spouse, intimate partner, and or family member. And we expanded it this year to include school officials, such as superintendents and vice principals and mental health workers and normal doctors, like your normal whatever. Those are incredibly important because those kind of go on the doctrine of, see something, say something. And they can prevent, and have in California, they actually prevented school shootings. So
you're saying these people are mandatory reporters of somebody violating a law?
They are mandatory. I am not sure, but
Okay.
because normally, I guess mandatory is you have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it just opens the door for, look, if you're sitting there and you have a kid in front of you who's talking about firearms shooting up and whatever, and you really don't know what's in his backpack on the floor. I mean, we saw that in Michigan, in the Michigan shooting. So it gives everybody a lot more leeway. Now, it may be that the mental health professional might refer them on to someone else who then becomes the reporter. Or it may end up that the police get involved somehow, and then the police are the reporters. I mean, but at least it gives a channel that you don't have to sit there and do nothing.
Okay. All right.
And we're also working both in Massachusetts now and federal on manufacturer accountability laws, which is amazing because the gun manufacturers for years have been able to do just whatever they wanted, including false advertising to minors, actually creating guns that can be modified to fire more ammunition than they should, etc. So we're working both federally now, and we're working in Massachusetts. I just wrote some testimony yesterday to stop that. They need to be accountable so that they can be sued civilly by victims of gun violence were they operating in a way not consistent with laws.
You know, as you're talking about this, I realized I don't know the gun laws at all in my state. I don't know anything. I don't even know where I would. I'm sure there's a Moms Demand Action or some other organization operating here in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania that has this information available to me. But as somebody who kind of thinks about the greater good and, you know, giving back and was raised sort of similarly to you, I don't know if I'm ignoring it or if I'm feeling like it's just too overwhelming for me to want to know all the things that are missing or not happening in the place where I'm living. I wonder if you could give advice on how do people like me access that, but all who are interested and want to know what's happening and if there's anything to be done. But also, I mean, Donna, I'm an anthropologist, so I talk so much about culture. Like, there's a culture here of not wanting to know or not feeling like change is possible. Like, how do we start to even begin to address those kinds of huge, like overwhelming feelings that you get when you start to think about this?
Oh, I know. We hear it a ton of times. Nothing's ever going to change. In the last administration, we changed a ton of stuff. And I think you have to realize, especially if you're an activist in this work, I tell my people all the time, we are not responsible for solving this whole thing right now because it is huge. I mean, when you look at the different kinds of shootings, you look the way the manufacturers play with the government, you look the way the lobbies play with the manufacturers, it's big. But the point being is you can't just look the other way because the people that are making it horrid continue to make it more horrid than it was before. I would suggest if anyone wants to get involved, you should Google your state and just Google organizations involved in gun violence prevention. And you will find, I'm sure you probably have a mom's, I'm sure, you know, there's you have Pennsylvania Ceasefire.
Okay.
Ceasefire Pennsylvania is great. They're doing really good work. So that's what you have. And then there will be moms for sure there. And another place to look just to get your feet wet is just for information is Everytown. And the Giffords group, which is Gabby Giffords, who was shot way back in the day. And those places are great. And one we work with all the time is the Sandy Hook group, the Newtown Action Alliance. They are ferocious at getting gun laws passed. They are in the U.S. Congress constantly. They're amazing. So, you know, you don't have to get in there and get overwhelmed.
Right.
But maybe you do something as easy as, let's say you're in Pennsylvania. You contact Ceasefire Pennsylvania and say, hey, I heard from X, you're doing some really good work. How can I help? And then you may get involved in something as easy as protesting at the State House or maybe writing some postcards or whatever. And you really need to work your way into it because you're right, it's overwhelming and most people it scares. And I don't want to say there's no reason to be scared, but there's more reason to be involved than not to be involved because this will only get worse if we don't do this.
So that's the piece of people who are going to be socially engaged in something and maybe need to pay attention to gun safety more. Not maybe, do. What are we doing and how do we reach the not just the socially engaged people, but the ones that are kind of okay with I mean, maybe they're not, but it feels like maybe they're okay with our society and culture having this pervasive gun culture.
Yeah, it's weird. I think it falls out with like this. I think it falls out with the hardcore activists, the activists that will work on and off in different things you offer them. Like I have people that like to rally, I have people that like to write letters, I have people that like to make signs. And then you get under there, I think you get to the people of, well, yeah, this is bad, but I'm kind of apathetic. Then below there, you get to the gun owners who really want to do something about this. Believe it or not, there are a ton of gun owners. There are organizations across the United States who are gun owners for gun safety. And although they don't agree with all our initiatives, they agree with a lot of them. And then you get way down in the gun owners. And once you get way, way, way down in the bottom there, you're probably not going to convince anybody of anything because it's so wrapped up in ideology and who they are and patriotism and politics and whatever. But the main thing I always talk about is let's clear the politics out of this. We're talking about that child you send to school every day. We're talking about your grandmother who's over there shopping at Target. We're talking, it may not have touched you yet, but the rate we're going, it's gonna. There are stats that say in 10 years, everybody in this country will have been touched by gun violence.
Well, you told me that one time, but I also feel like you told me right now it's like 50% of people have been touched by it.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's easily 30 or 40. And it's just, unfortunately, what we see is when it happens in your town, like Maine, for instance, okay? And I grew up in New England. I'm a New Englander, so I'm not saying this without knowing. A big gun state, a big freedom state, a big whatever. And then they get 18 people shot in an incident, a year ago maybe? And now all of a sudden they are the gun law hub of the country and they are trying to pass gun laws. So unfortunately, what happens sometimes is it needs to get that close before you say, yeah, this is a problem. We need to work. So we fight. I mean, education is one of our biggest things. I have a pamphlet that goes out to every police department on the Cape 3 times a year with stuff in it like we're talking about right here. If you want a gun, this is what you need to know. And I love it because when people come in to get a license, which they do here, they give them that. So I am right at the point of when you first get a gun, I'm there with my safe storage, the suicide, the red flag laws, the whole 9 yards of, okay, this is what it means that now you have this gun. This is what it means. And we're really proud of that program because there's no way that didn't save somebody's life by now. I mean, it's been going on for like 5 years, I think.
Do people express, I mean, let's say they've gone in for their license, they get that pamphlet. Are you finding that people express surprise or that this is something they didn't even think to know about?
Well, we also take that pamphlet and locks for your guns out in public. So if the police are having, a national night out, a police night out, we go there and we have our table with that pamphlet and the gun locks. And you would be surprised what we hear. We are often horrified, actually. Or, so it's, and I went to another health fair and this woman came to the table and she said, oh, I should look at this. I'm thinking about buying a gun. And I said, okay, why don't you take this pamphlet? I said, if you have a chance while you're still here, just grab a chair somewhere and, sit down and run through there. And I'll be here all afternoon. So you can come back and talk. She came back and said to me, she said, I never realized all this stuff. She said, I'm going to table this decision for a while. And I said, if you have small children in the house, if you have any kind of situation going on in your house that isn't quite what you want it to be, I said, especially if you have teenagers who we never know where their minds are at. I said, I would think about it. Because I said, we know statistically that your chances of using that firearm in a defensive situation to save yourself are so much less than something going wrong with that firearm that it's a really serious decision.
Yeah, I think there's something really interesting too about the, I don't know if it's shame or quiet. There's something quiet about gun ownership too. Like I have a child, and when she goes to play dates at other people's houses, I think, can I ask them if there's a gun? Can I ask them if they store it safely? Will that, be like a social faux pas? That we're not having this conversation, that we don't know and are uncomfortable having this conversation out loud. Seems to me an indication that we haven't quite turned the tide on really knowing how to talk about guns.
Oh, it's a total indication. Our last newsletter, this is why I love you guys to sign up for us. Number one, it's free. We have educational newsletters every month, and we have an action item every month, which is so easy for you to do. I would love for you to do that, because it's only with all of our voices going that we're going to change this. But as far as this conversation, we did a newsletter, I think 2 months ago, on having the conversation, both on safe storage and suicide, because those are the two biggies where we need to have these conversations. Because as soon as you open your mouth and you start talking about it, as we've seen nationally, sooner or later, it becomes more normal. We need to normalize the conversation. And in that newsletter, like, let's say you have a child and he's going over to somebody's house to play. You're right, Lindsay. It is a really tough conversation, because underneath there, even if you bought a gun and you think you're justified in doing that, there's something still under there. And I think it's a mix of, I don't want to say shame. I think it's a mix of just being uncomfortable with it and a privacy issue.
Yeah.
So what happens, we say to people, maybe start thinking about this before you ever get there, which is, maybe you're out to lunch, or maybe you're talking to somebody and you say, I've been reading a lot about gun violence lately, and I'm kind of scared for where my children play. Sometimes you can break the ice like that. Or you can ask them right out, same scenario. I've been reading about it, and it frightens me because my child is really curious. There's another good one. And sometimes people even go, if we're all uncomfortable with this, maybe they play at my house. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but it has to be done. And we talk about the same with suicide, for God's sakes. If you think you know somebody who's in that zone, ask them the question. Are you feeling okay? Is there anything I can do? Whatever. Most of the time, that question is really welcome, and you can get someone help. So we have to, stop tiptoeing around. And I know this is hard to say, but if you have someone and your kid's playing there and you can't even ask them if they have a gun, like you would an allergy or something, or a swimming pool, do you have a swimming pool? Maybe that's not where you want them anyway. But it's just amazingly bad when a child shoots another child, and you're like, and the strangest part is, some of the biggest advocates in the United States are advocates who have lost a child to gun violence. And this is crazy, because one of the biggest advocates in the United States lost a teenager. So we're not just talking toddlers shooting each other. I mean, we're talking inquisitive kids that like guns. or and it's heartbreaking.
Mm. Okay, Donna, let's talk about grandmas. Why
Okay.
grandmas in this fight?
You
What do you
mean
think is unique to the ways that grandmothers address this that can maybe they can get through in different ways?
grandmothers command a ton of respect. I mean, to give you an idea, we went to an event in Dorchester, which is right outside of the city here in Boston, and it's um, a socioeconomic challenged neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there, and we're all these little Caucasian grandmothers sitting around this table. And you would be surprised the number of residents, young men especially, and some men that were in their 30s, big guys would come up to us and hug us. And what we learned was in some of those communities, most of those kids get raised by their grandmothers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying, we have so much respect for grandmothers. It's amazing. And we were there like, wow, this is really cool. But I think overall, I think grandmothers can make an impact because we kind of carry this gravitas,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're a really good grandmother. And they listen to you, they respect you, and other people in society, although I don't like the ageism I see a lot of the time,
Yeah.
really respect the age. For instance, when we stand out at that Rotary, cars going by, in the summer we probably have 3,000 cars go by there in an hour. We very rarely take any abuse from anybody. Whereas if we were younger,
Mm-hmm.
I know we would.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, respect and there's wisdom. What I like the most is when I work with my people, I like the wisdom because some great ideas happen. And you just know that those ideas come out of years of, and there's just this incredible love. In fact, right now, I think what I hear more than anything, even in this political climate and as relates to gun violence, is I just can't leave my grandchildren with this.
Yeah.
And that's the way I feel. I feel like, oh, wow, I'm probably not going to be around for a ton of time yet. And I'm thinking, I just don't want to leave it like this. So I think women in general,
Mm-hmm.
and grandmothers especially, just bring, I will say, a fight to the table, which is unrelenting.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that you fight differently than you did 20, 30 years ago?
Wow. I'm thinking back to college and the Vietnam War and way back there. It's so different. We have to fight carefully, I will say, because of our 501c3 status,
Yeah.
and we have to fight intelligently.
Mm-hmm.
We're sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be sneaky sometimes, and we are. We're not big in the furious engagement, like I said, with the lower 20% of the gun group, because
Yeah.
we found out really quickly it yields nothing. It
Well,
yields,
if you can get 60% of the population behind an issue, which on some of these practical gun safety measures, don't they have surveys that show that most of Americans believe in it. So that's the group that you really are courting anyway, right?
yeah, it's like 80% of Americans believe in stricter gun regulations. And yet you look at the Congress and you're going, okay, so why is it if 85% of the American population, what is it? They all live in the blue states? And that's why we can't get anything passed by the red state.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, You know there's an incredible potential out there if people would stand up, no matter what your state, no matter what your color, no matter whatever. This is an issue that should transcend political lines. Your children's lives are more important than whether you want to vote on one side of the aisle or the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our battle of always saying, look, if your guy, go to a town hall and ask him the question straight up. What is your stand on gun violence prevention?
Mm-hmm.
That's what
you stand as a grandmother asking that question. That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Stand up there and say, what exactly is your stand on gun violence prevention? Because once again, it's normalizing the conversation. When people dare to let that come out of their mouth, it's going to be at the next town hall.
We have one final question, Donna, and then we're going to hand it over to questions from the chat. So if anybody wants to start putting a question into the chat, you feel free. We'll get to them in about 5 minutes. What is a very small thing someone could do today to feel like not to just feel like it, to actually start driving change in their community?
Well, actually, I would say you can Google what's happening in your state, because the states now are really being the champions of driving. The states are working really hard. I mean, we, for instance, passed a huge addition to our gun laws last year, and now we're going to have to defend it in a referendum in 2026. So it never ends.
No.
It never ends, and you just keep going. But I would say find out what's happening in your state and sign up on our website, because we will give you something to do once a month. And it's what we're doing is right now is really important, because if we should have a sea change in the next midterms, I don't want to say we are locked and loaded, because I'm not going to use those words. We are building a bench that can actually get some stuff done. So we really need, and it's so easy. What we give you is so easy, and we made it that way on purpose so that you could sit down with your morning coffee and do 5 things, which are nothing. I mean, it's great, and it builds the bench, and it drives. But another good source is the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters in our state has committed to having gun violence prevention on their state platform. So that's huge, because that means
really support what's happening at your very local level as much as possible.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing, pay attention to what Grandparents Uniting is doing and start something, even if it's something small.
You're very likely to find in our alerts for action, you're very likely to find your state sitting there that somebody needs to be called or something needs to happen, because I find them myself when I go down the list of what I give people to do, and I see 3 of my heavy hitters still not co-sponsoring a bill. I know they're gonna, but I'm not gonna wait for them to do it. I call them up and I say, hey, you.
No, honestly, I gotta tell you, Donna, so many grandmas tell me also, like, they have their local officials or their mayor or whatever on speed dial, and those people take their calls, right? Because they know that you're kind of not going to leave them alone, and you're a grandma.
Well, I mean, they totally know you're not walking away.
Yeah.
And it just has to happen, and it's like an inch at a time. I always say, this is a marathon. This is no sprint. I mean, for instance, my group has been there for 13 years and working on legislation in our state is 3rd in the country for strength of gun laws. And we have the lowest homicide rate in the United States other than Hawaii. So they work. The gun laws work. And they work. When I gave you Everytown and Giffords, go there, because they have excellent resources. You can get a state map instead
Okay.
of where your states are.
They've all been dropped into the chat. So all of the
Right.
links are in our
Super.
chat, and we'll make sure that we put them in the show notes and things as well. Donna, I want to introduce your co-founder of Grandparents Uniting for Gun Safety, Judy, who also happens to be the president, and she said she would drop in for the last 20 minutes. Hi, Judy.
Hey there, how are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. Do you have any insights or want to share any thoughts based on what Donna and I've been talking about?
Well, I wish I could, but try as I tried, I could
You
not
couldn't
get
see it.
I couldn't see it and I couldn't hear it. It kept telling me to redirect. I copied, I pasted, I swore, I did all kinds of things, but I am sure Donna was outstanding. I have no worries about that. And I'm going to make whatever comments you want me to make brief so that
Okay.
there's plenty of time for.
Judy, what's your personal story? What was the stake that brought you to this work in gun safety?
Sandy Hook, I'm sure you hear that very often. Sadly, we've been aware certainly of other mass shootings and school shootings and what have you, but somehow the fact that these bereaved families who lost their kids on December 14th, kids and teachers, of course, went to Washington to ask for a crumb of a piece of legislation that might mitigate some of this gun violence. And it all fell on deaf ears. And it was just one of those things where you finally thought, we can't let this happen. It's ridiculous. And I'll tell you, Lindsay, in all honesty, that was however many, 12 or 13 years ago. I thought, oh, we'll work on legislation and we'll get this taken care of. We'll just write our legislators and explain to them how important the minimum banning assault weapons in those days. And then we learned the hard truth that it's very hard to get legislators to pass any legislation. So that's what started me. I'll keep going till you tell me to stop.
No, go ahead. I'm still waiting for someone to drop a question in. I'm thinking everybody's just thinking about what they've learned. Yeah.
Well, Donna, I know what I don't know what you were going to ask, but I know what she was planning to say. And there may not be any questions. There may just be applause because she covered everything I know so well. I know she knows the story of us, and I know you're a good interviewer. So between us, I'm sure they got what they wanted.
So Judy, just real quickly, the two of you before we started, you were saying Donna said, she's in a state that has taken seriously gun legislation and has been able to pass. I mean, even really at that local level, you getting your police forces to participate in educating the public. You, Judy, you're in Missouri. You're in Kansas City, Missouri.
Right. We are right on. We're on the state line of Kansas.
What are some of the challenges that you're where have you seen success, or where have you been able to drive some change?
I wish I could tell you we have, but we haven't. We haven't made any. We cannot move our legislators. We can't move our federal senators and representatives. We have a couple of good representatives in the United States Congress.
Yeah.
But we can't do anything in the state. We introduce and reintroduce, and we work in collaboration with Moms Demand Action, which has got a great legislative arm, as you know, and nothing. Most of our bills don't even get in committee. I know that bills go in committees to die. We can't even get that far. So it's pretty heartbreaking. And so what I say, we keep on doing that, Lindsay. You have to keep letting them know. We have to work to elect people who understand the need for the basic gun laws. We're not asking for major changes. We're not talking about taking guns away from people. We're talking about basic safety for our communities. Extreme risk, I'm sure Donna talked about this, extreme risk protection orders, banning of assault style weapons, safe storage laws. These are the bare minimum that would go so far. So while we wait for that in Kansas and Missouri, and frankly, on the federal level, our biggest program for making change is distribution of free gun locks, free high quality gun locks. And we've given over 9,000 of them
Oh,
away
wow.
over 7 years. And you can't prove a negative, so we don't have data to prove that. We have data about where we gave them away, and you can
Yeah.
try to, correlate when gun violence goes down a bit in a certain zip code. But I know for a fact we have made sure that one toddler didn't pick up a gun that was lying loaded and unlocked on a coffee table and shoot her dad or herself. We know that some teenager who it didn't get invited to the prom or who knows what didn't have the ability to take the final step by taking his or her own life because the gun was locked. And that's the basic thing we can do. We do a lot, as Donna does with gun locally, with working with the police, who are very helpful to us. So as I say, we really multitask, which is what women do, grandmothers do even better. Women
Yep.
grandmothers are the stars at multitasking. We work on legislation. We work on trying to move our elected officials or get them unelected. But while we do that, we know we have to address the issue. And so we address gun safety by giving away free gun locks.
Mm. So, since I have, someone does a question, but I want to ask this one question. Since I have the both of you, why the impetus to collaborate, right? You're working in different places. Obviously, there's national networks, but why a collaborative program working specifically focused on older adults?
You want that, Donna?
Well, I think we got a lot of comment about, do you have a chapters where we are? In other
Yeah.
words,
We get that. We get that too.
Yeah, and we're like, oh no.
Everybody wants a chapter.
Yeah, and chapters, as you know, are hard to put together. They're expensive, and who wants 9 million people calling you every 10 seconds? So we said this is an easy way. Grandparents, mostly, a lot of them have the resources, they have the time, they have the intelligence, and they have the desire to do this. So we said, we're going to do a newsletter once a month, and we're going to do an alert once a month, and we're going to give these people something that they can do. And during that time period, we thought people are looking for stuff to do. And it's amazing because when you do even one thing, you feel so much better. It's not like you're sitting there doing nothing and you're, feeling really bad. But one question you put to me, I kind of like to answer, and that was, how do you stay grounded and hopeful in the face of such
we didn't get there.
complex and painful issue? And I think I've learned this from a lot of other groups I work with. And one thing is, right now, focus is essential because diversion is the destroyer of progress. Let's face it, we all know that. I would say, know what you're good at and do it. Realize this is not a marathon, but is a marathon, not a sprint, and celebrate your wins. Because what happens in our business is everything happens so quickly and it's so reactive that you're like, yeah, we did that and that was good. Next.
Yeah.
But when you don't celebrate your wins, you don't get any joy. And we can't go on like this. As well as celebrating the wins, analyze your losses and your strategies, because probably why you lost had something to do with your strategy. And believe in your mission. Every time you want to not get up, not do this, I always say to myself, is saving lives worth this? And one time I was all upset with my husband. I said, I got to stop this. This is killing me. And he just looks up and he goes, what you do is really important. I said, okay, I'm in there for another year. Let's go. But I really think that you need to make room for your family, your hobbies, and your personal life, because that's what this is all about. in
Yeah.
the end.
I remember somebody saying the joy was resistance. Joy is resistance.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
And
And the belief, as Donna says, in any tiny win. Sometimes it's winning another person to join in your activity. Sometimes it is a win with a piece of legislation, but any win is worth it. And you have to believe. I believe in my core, we will succeed. It's going to happen. And so if you believe it, you don't mind working for it. And what I tell people who ask me these kinds of questions is do one thing. You don't have, let me work on all this big stuff if you want. Do one thing. Go to a postcard party, make
Yeah.
phone calls, do
Yeah.
one little thing. And, I don't like to tell them that's all you need, but I like to say, get started. Don't look at the big picture. It's too hard. It's too much. And just do one thing. As Donna said, focus, then do another thing. But we can make it work. This is not the first time. It seems awful, but it's not the first time our country has been in trouble. And as I say, this fight for gun reform has been going on for 13 years, and it will end. We just have to keep focused and believe we can make a difference.
Yeah, I'm so glad you answered that question, Donna.
Yeah.
Because I do think reminding ourselves that we're fighting for a world where everybody thrives, where people feel safe. We're fighting for that, and if you forget about it and get caught up in the day to day, then
yeah, and the minutia is not where it's at. I would also like to say to be sure to get with other groups like the League of Women Voters and stuff, because you're going to find friends, and we need friends and camaraderie at this moment, because we do. And I would say that you should realize everything you do makes a difference, and everything you don't do makes a difference. And my last one is I like to get in the car when I'm really thinking I can't do this anymore, and get the 70s station on my radio and drive around during my errands singing 70 songs. You'd be amazed at how much singing can lift your spirits.
yeah. And singing together. There's like so many grandma groups that get together and sing. There's a group of environmental activists in San Francisco that have a sing along like once a week. That
Really?
they get out and sing as they fight for climate change.
Yeah.
We have to combine all of the things that make us human as we do this work.
Joy. The joy.
Donna and Judy, there were a couple of questions in the chat, and I just want to make sure that they get connected. I think we've answered a couple of them in various ways. Oh, I sing with the raging grannies. That's what I was talking about. That was
Great.
It's wonderfully encouraging. Someone just wrote that, Mary.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So what are you doing to engage gun owners? Like, I know you were saying there are gun owner groups that are thinking a lot about this space. And are there groups that are working specifically in local schools focused on, I know they do things like active shooter drills that I don't even want to know are happening, but I know they're happening at schools. What other ways do we see people engaging in that sort of grassroots work that maybe is getting at some of the other parts of this story around gun safety, not just the like political legislative side, but the like local cultural sides?
Well, one thing that we are doing, first of all, getting into schools in Kansas and Missouri, that's hard too.
Yeah, schools are hard everywhere.
But I do, there are 2 or 3 young groups I've been able to connect with. And I work with them. That one has a very active group at one of the high schools, East Against Gun Violence. And we're working together on projects because, we talk about intergenerational. I'm a huge believer in that.
Yeah.
What would we do without the kids who can tell us how to operate our iPhones and whatever? And they have the energy and the technology experience, but we have the lived experience, the wisdom of how many times have many of us going to say, I wish, woulda, coulda, shoulda, wish I'd known then what I know now, what I would have done. And so we can bring that to him. And it's our job, I believe, in understanding how you bring that to them and build the trust so that you're not taking over. But I definitely believe that all of us have to do the intergenerational piece of this.
Yeah.
Because all of these, as Donna says, they're journeys, not sprints. Some of us oldies, you won't understand this yet, but some of us may not even live to see some of what we hope to accomplish. But our hope is our kids and our grandchildren and will. So intergenerational has got to be a piece of this. And we have to work at that. But it's not hard. Most kids are pretty open if we behave ourselves.
If you behave yourselves.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I believe that. I think you don't want to be pedantic. You don't want to. I go to these kids' meetings and I wait to be called on, and I don't say in my day or
Yeah.
any of that. I just try to be where they are and
Yeah.
support them, and I try to do projects with them. So
Mhm.
and let them be the lead, and we participate. I like to tell them, "You're the boss of me in this.
Yeah.
I'm just here, and our grandparents group is here to support you. But you guys, you design it. We'll just be there."
Well, yeah, and if you go where they are, we participated in this huge suicide walk, and there are a ton of young kids that are doing things in their schools for suicide, and they
Mhm.
were amazing. And we got a lot of their mind share we wouldn't have gotten had we not gone there. Um, and there's another thing that's interesting, and I'm just going to throw this out so that people can look at it because it's interesting. Is there's a group called Project Unloaded, and it's a woman who founded a group of young kids who are trying to convince their peers not to carry guns, not to be
Wow.
involved with guns. And it's called, their main initiative is Snug, and it's safer not using guns. And they are doing incredible stuff that goes right to their audience. They're doing videos to their audience. They're doing things like dressing up in their prom dresses with strapped on with a gun saying, "Now, does this look good?" And they're right at the core of talking to their own audience. So when you talk about gun culture, I love that because it works from the bottom up. I mean, we're working from the top down, and they're
Yeah.
so that's a good one to look at. It's
Yeah, that's a great one.
encouraging.
And because they're not looking around trying to figure out the best way, they know when to use TikTok and when to use Instagram, and they know that stuff. And so why don't, we're
Yeah.
saying the same thing. Kids are very important to the work.
And,
But you supporting them is also incredibly important. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I know from lots of intergenerational conversations that when you feel like you've got the older person to lean on, you also are braver, right? Like, we know grandmas are the social safety net of the world, like very
Right.
much so.
Right.
So why aren't you, showing that in these activist spaces and in other sort of local spaces as well? All of
And
it
there are-
matters.
and there are, to answer your original question of working with gun owners,
Yeah.
the Giffords group has
Mhm.
gun owners for gun safety, and they really led the way in talking to the gun owners. We used to do it way back before I was the president, and unfortunately, as the politics have evolved, that's gotten harder and harder to do. But we're always open to the conversation, and we even had a webinar on it with grandmothers when we first started out. We had that group on, and they are very receptive to reasonable gun laws.
Absolutely.
So it's a contingent.
Yeah, I mean, we know that gun owners are very, very supportive of gun reform. I mean, I say this all the time, whether you're a gun owner or a non-gun owner, you're sitting next to some guy on the bus with his gun at his side. All of us would like to feel that he passed a background check or was eligible to carry that gun. I just as soon I didn't have to sit by somebody with a gun, but Gun owners are very supportive. I think the one thing we have found, we've got gun owners in our local group,
Yeah.
and they have spoken to us. We have monthly meetings, and we have speakers of all kinds. And we've had our gun owners talk with us. We also had one gun owner group speak to us, a local chapter, and they were very receptive to everything. They did not like background checks. They happened to be African American, and
Yeah.
they were not crazy about background checks. And I understand that.
Yes.
And so you find the place, you can't have your standards so high that the people with whom you collaborate believe in everything you believe, chapter and
Nope.
verse. Find where you work together and do that. And don't worry about the rest. I mean, we all know logically who you're not going to work with. But if there's a group that isn't it, I mean, like I see the people on your group, even in the States, climate control, reproductive rights. Those are things that
Literacy. I mean,
you-
we've got, it's all over the place. The local
Sure,
care.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's a way to say, how do we collaborate? Maybe we write letters to the legislators and we sign them from 3 different groups.
Yeah.
And so there are all kinds of ways. We don't need purity tests. We
Nope.
collaborate. We find the sweet spot and we do it.
Pragmatism and persistence is things I often talk about. Grandmothers are pragmatic and persistent.
Right. Right.
Okay, we don't have any more time. It has been, we have reached the end. I don't know that we covered it all, but we will never be able to cover it all.
No.
But I'm so delighted that the both of you joined us, and Donna for really giving us a deep dive into the continued challenges that we all face and the ways in which older women like yourselves are coming up with solutions and strategies to just try to make the world a little bit better.
Good.
So let me just close out real quick with this thing that we'll edit in. So it's really nice. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your courage. Your work reminds us that advocacy can be both fierce and tender, born of love, persistence, and the belief that every life is worth protecting. To everyone watching, thank you for joining this special live edition of Grandma Magic. If you'd like to learn more or get involved, please again remember that you can visit grandparentsunitingforsafety.org. There you can sign up for their monthly newsletters and their quick action alerts and resources for local organizing. And then also you can explore grandmothercollective.org to join our membership circle, participate in storytelling initiatives, or attend our monthly coffee chats. We actually are today launching a course on how to lead like a mighty grandma. You can still register today. There will be live programming on Thursdays for the next 6-7 weeks because we're skipping for Thanksgiving. And this live stream will also be available later on the Grandma Magic podcast. So subscribe wherever you listen for more stories of grandmothers redefining leadership in their communities. Until next time, thank you for showing up, speaking up, and believing in the power of grandmothers to make a safer, more compassionate world. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.